A lot of it has to do with obviously scouting and management and scouting and owners and coaching staff kind of all working towards a common goal, and that common goal will always stem from our game model and our player profiles. And if you stay within those means, if you stay within those guidelines, then you're going to not maybe replicate success, but at least the type of football that we present should look and feel the same. And I think we've been able to do that.
But has that been tough? Because you look at some big European teams with Bayern Munich, same guys, same key guys for years and years and years, and over here it just seems to change.
It's our I'm not sure you can compare. And I'm sure if we were not forced to make changes, we wouldn't make as many changes we've made. I think the way the league is set up, if you're success, you are financially in a tough spot to repeat, and you're not able really to build on a current roster. It's just the way our league is set up, and so it just makes it really difficult to build on a successful group. And so you have to come up with ways to recreate the success, but with different names.
Just provide an update on the group over the last 2 weeks, and also the health of players coming back from international duty. How do you think you guys are as a collective?
I don't think any coach likes this window in the middle of playoffs, and that affects every team. And so it's just not ideal. But we have a couple guys who have some long travel that have to. They're back. Thankfully, all safe and sound, and maybe have some rhythm as far as games go. But certainly, the travel is a beast for a lot of these guys, and it's a lot to deal with. And it it does disrupt your weekly work, but this isn't the first window, and we've done this many times, and so we'll be prepared for sure, and we are all on board and healthy.
For Olivier, obviously the goals haven't come, especially around MLS competition, but he has contributed in other ways. How do you see him sort of managing his expectations for himself, which are obviously incredibly high, versus knowing that he has helped this team win? There's sort of a balance in there.
Yeah, I think that's by understanding, and I don't have to explain anything to him. He's seen all levels of the sport, and all in the ups and downs as well. The work rate for the team is always more important than scoring goals, and from any attacker. And then depending on how many goals you score or how many few you score, that ratio kind of goes up and down in either direction. Can fluctuate for attackers, and I think that's he's well aware of that, and he puts the work in every week, every day.
For opponents who face you, they're going to have to either plan for having Olivier in the 9, or maybe Bogusz, which is a different profile, and you guys do different things. How much of an advantage does that present to you that they don't quite know which direction you're going to hit them with, but you have both and they're both effective?
Yeah, I think creating plan B and sometimes plan C in all portions of the field and all phases of the game, whether we have the ball. So if we're talking about the final third, how can we break teams down? You have guys like Olivier and Kai. Your path to goal becomes a little different, as opposed to if you have a Kike, a Maddie, and Denis. And on set pieces, it changes our approach as well. Defensively, it can change our approach as well. So I think having different tools is great, but having tried them out in real situations like we've had, and have used them in tight spots as well, really gives us a lot of tools to change momentums of game if we need to, and also to adapt to teams as well. So I think it's something we've worked on all season long, and I've been open about that all season long, and creating different match plans for different opponents in different phases of the game and different scenarios. And we feel very comfortable we're at having solutions for all phases and all situations.
And in particular for Seattle, this is the 4th time I think you're playing them this year. Have you adapted and shown all those multiple ways against them, or have you sort of stuck to a particular set that's had success? How would you say you've managed to get the results that you have against them?
It's pretty similar. I think a lot of the goals we've scored against have been in transition, so we fully expect Brian to be prepared for that and then not to concede away from home. So that will be a difficult phase for us, but certainly one we're not going to disregard. Set pieces have worked as well. And adversely, we've done a great job of keeping them in check in transition with Jordan Morrison his pace up top and some pace and 1v1 ability in the flanks and players in between lines they have. So they have their tools as well. But we've done a good job of negating those weapons, and certainly set pieces is a huge weapon for them. I think the majority of their goals have come off of set pieces in the last 10 games. So we're well prepared. And now it comes down to guys performing on game day. And it has in the last matches we played against them too. They've been tight margins. We're looking forward to another tight match, but we're at home and our expectations are to win.
You're the only club in MLS that has gotten this far in the last 3 years. I think you've gotten farther than the other two, but I'm not going to ask you which team was the best because it's like asking which child you love the most. But how has that changed? I mean, I'm guessing that with the players you have, that you're comfortable here, you're used to this part of the season. The moment maybe is not going to get too big for you like it might with other teams. Is there an advantage in that?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think it definitely helps to have played in games like this. But if you have not, the motivation will be much higher if you have not. So there's give and takes. And no, certainly do not have a favorite. Every team poses its challenges, but also every team has its advantages and opportunities. Better said. And this particular team has experience, has some youth as well. What I really appreciate about this group is we have different ways to break teams down, depending on who we line up and how we work our bench and how we sub players in. So there are many different ways we can beat teams and many tools and different tools. So it seems to me at this stage in the season a very, very well-rounded roster. And I have a lot of potential starters on the bench, which always helps.
How was these last 2-3 weeks with playing game and staying here all together with the team?
Yeah, a lot of training. It's hard to keep training sessions always real, and sometimes they need to be fun. You need to relax a little bit. We had 5 players gone in a national window, and so there's a lot of variables that you have to kind of deal with in these longer stretches. But we did it last year, and so it helped to have gone through that once before. But at the end, this is an experienced team and a lot of experienced players out there who dealt with the situation really, really well. I was positively surprised at the engagement and attitude in training over the past, 19 days.
And everybody's healthy?
Yes, 100%.
What surprised you?
How intense the training sessions were.
I would think that they would be intense. There's no games. These guys have energy to burn. That's not something you would expect from them.
Well, I think with yes, a professional level of intensity is always there. Sometimes there's more, and the intensity I'm talking about is a little bit more. That comes around a couple days before big games, and certainly comes around during playoff time at the end of the season, when you're fighting for positions at the table. That was there the entire time, which is great, but also not always needed. It doesn't make sense to have a super intense 19 days and then all of a sudden run out of gas before the game. So we obviously manage their loading, and we feel we're physically in a very good spot for Saturday. But yeah, the intensity level was in times where we asked them just to have some fun, was higher than we expected, and which is great.
Let's play a game. Have like a English squad game, or bring another team to play, or
No, not. I think not how you're expecting or phrasing the question.
Did you have in mind where you line up, or just team moving pieces?
Yeah, we have different ideas. As I mentioned earlier, one decision affects another, which also affects your ability to change the momentum, moments, areas of focus from the bench. So it's more of a strategy over 120 minutes plus penalties, if you will, that we're coming out with, unless this one's better than this one and it's this guy or this guy. So it's more of an overall strategy that we discuss. and less kind of one against another.
Chandrima, go ahead and ask your question over Zoom.
Hi, thanks, Mark. Thanks, guys. Two questions. Your early mentor, including Clive Charles, instilled in you the importance of being a team player, and we've heard you say this time and time again in postgame, that there might be standout individual performances, but the most essential thing for you has been seeing the whole team succeed and doing it together, right? How has this year's team evolved, in your opinion, over the course of this season so far?
Yeah, I think as teams and organizations become more successful, the individual accolades, contracts, financials, all of that becomes then relevant, and also maybe warranted by individuals. And it's my job as well as management's job to make sure that those themes are taken care of and in the right manner, but also to make sure that we're all understanding that we have a mission here, we have a journey together, and we have a job to do. And we've had a couple frank talks with the guys about that, and checking your egos at the front door. We went through a difficult patch through the Leagues Cup final and Open Cup quarterfinals, semifinals, where we were really stretched thin in a lot of games, just this impossible schedule. Ended up coming out on top and winning a trophy in the Open Cup. And we were able to do that because players put their individual situations aside for the good of the group. And as long as I'm here, that will always be the message.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Switching gears a little with asking you to do a little introspection. You're now in your third year as the head coach, potentially heading for a third straight MLS Cup final should things go your way. What are some of the ways in which you feel you've grown as a coach and leader on and off the pitch? It's not just about the players, right? It's about you too.
Yeah, I'm constantly trying to get better. I think that is a growth mindset or mentality this particular coaching staff certainly has. And we try to instill it in the players. Just winning a game isn't good enough. And, we are very demanding and sometimes quite tiring, I would say, as a staff. But to get to your question, I think that also helps us continue to question ourselves, our decisions, our training methods, our physical loading. The way we work at LAFC, is it good enough? And also trying to improve. It's hard to find and go out on a 3-week sabbatical and go find inspiration elsewhere in the schedule. We don't have that luxury, so within our means, we're trying to find inspiration and ideas from other coaches, other organizations, to continue to get better and to grow, because that is the true goal. I think just winning isn't enough. It's trying to improve from year to year, and that's that's something we really believe and we act on, and we work in that environment on a day-to-day basis. I couldn't be prouder of this staff. For me, it's a pleasure to work with them, but it's also a lot of work because they're very demanding and very good.
Thank you.
Michael, you're up.
Sorry, I broke up there for a second. Hey, Steve. Thank you, Logan. Steve, I know you're a guy that likes to look forward instead of backward, but almost exactly a year ago, you went up to Seattle and won the conference semifinal there. And this year's team, a lot has changed since that, since those 12 months. 11 of the 20 guys you took last year to Seattle. Only 11 of those are on the current roster. And just how would you quantify all the shifts that have taken place over the last 12 months, including, there's a time in training camp where you had to bring in some LAFC 2 bodies just to have training, and some of the adds that you've made and some of the subtractions and all the growth that's happened over the last 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think John is a better one to sit here and talk about roster volatility and changes and rules and finances, but there's been a lot of changes, and I think the only way to deal with that is to have a clear path on the field. And when we do talk to players and we onboard players, the onboarding process is pretty seamless. We're very clear with how we want to play and with our expectations of how that player fits into our model and our way of playing. Of course, we adapt to the attributes of the player a little bit and the individual, but for the most part, we find players whose natural habits and behaviors will fit in well with our model or within the framework of our model. And so that is very key in creating a winning side with a lot of changes. So far, it's worked, and we'll continue down that path. But in an ideal world, you keep building with the same players, and you make a few changes here and there to try to improve, but you have less changes from year to year. But that is a bit of a pipe dream in our league.